What eventually made you leave him, Sally?
I think a combination of a few things. 5 years ago we had COVID.
Yeah.
5 years ago we had nearly, this idea of Brexit. I don't want to get into politics, and this idea that we wouldn't be free to travel. He was also running from something, so we found ourselves moving to Spain during the kind of, COVID period when we were allowed to travel, and then we got closed down again. And basically being on a mountain top in Spain during COVID, during the build up to Brexit, and just being with him fully 24/7. And I think the silence of the mountains and the landscape and the hour after hour of being present in the moment, because that's what we all had to do during that time, good
Mm,
and bad. I just started to see him in a different way. And then I started to experience what I call signs and synchronicities, what
hmm
I call angelic and divine signs and synchronicities that became so strong that I couldn't ignore them, to the point where I'd be sleeping and I'd have this little voice saying, "Wake up, look at the clock," or "Look up now," or "Do this now." And it'd be constantly at a time when something was happening, or there was a thought process going on, or there was a put down or a fear. And that made me kind of reconnect, if you like, with the faith side of me, like this kind of that stillness made me really start listening to what was going on inside. I started noticing that I was faithful around him. And he didn't help himself in that one day he drove off and left me in the mountains with no money, no water, and made me walk home because I'd kept him waiting. And I just remember that feeling of absolute humiliation, that I could be discarded like a piece of trash. He'd done this once before to me in Cyprus, made me get out of the car on the side of the road with no money, no passport, no water, no means to. And so he would hold that against me constantly, that, he could just throw me away, toss me away if I didn't conform. And I think that journey home on that day in the scorching heat on a mountain, I just knew that I had to do something. And
hmm
so I started talking to friends that were based in Spain. They said what they saw. And then I spoke to a personal friend who's a specialist in domestic violence. I went through the feelings that I had with him. He's based in Wakefield. And I said, look, if you think this is just an old marriage that needs fixing, just tell me to pull my socks up and get on with it. But he didn't. He just said, Sal's, he says, he has just ticked all 10 red flags of narcissistic abuse. And my advice to you is to get out now while you still can, because this is only going to get worse. And so that's what I did. I had to devise a safe exit plan.
hmm
I went to a Spanish lawyer who never charged me a single penny. He was fantastic. He put me through the Spanish equivalent of the domestic violence unit here, got me an interpreter who talked through all of the red flags of narcissistic abuse. And through all of that, the friends, the professional advice in the UK and Spain, I was able to devise a safe plan to get out of that situation.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.